I just turned the recording on because I have to be across the room. I know we're close to start time, not quite.
She's telling them to quiet down.
Wait a minute, I'm fixing it.
My minutes?
Yeah,
I didn't even put them on.
I did, and I put it accidentally at the top of the whole thing, so I just moved it to the bottom. Julie, your computer say 6?
My phone says
5:59?
5:59.
Okay, I got it.
My computer says 6:02.
Is it really?
It does.
See, here's-
But you know, we're always ahead of the game in
There you
the
go.
office.
There you
know?
go, we are ahead of the game, we're just gonna go.
Well, that's because you start 2 minutes before the rest of us. That's not fair.
Fogging up tonight. I looked up this morning down at the blood drive too. Like, I can't even see you.
That way you don't know it's coming.
Well, yeah. I had a bad experience the first time I had bloods drawn, which was last November or a year ago November. So I didn't know for sure if I wanted to.
Ready?
This one.
Okay.
I swear.
I'll call the meeting to order. Verification of meeting notice.
Posted on the web, right?
Okay. Approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Discussion of bills and balances. Okay, so the first one, so Steve, any that you have in between or whatever, just speak up. First one I had was 51467, Arneson's, Unit 7, new fuel tank, et cetera, $2,689.07.
What, the bus we're talking about selling is 11. So we're 7 in the scheme of things. Towards the older,
Oh, yeah, the one.
It is slightly older.
like second from the bottom.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And then, just so that the board is aware, it's not a question on the amount. I had 51472 to Boardman, so it's our legal billing from November to January 26th. And that was for $1,384. The next one I had was 51474 to CDI Dallas for 15 Chrome bags. My question is, when we buy the Chromebooks and that, you don't get the bags?
No,
Oh,
It
okay,
depends on sometimes packages, sometimes you get some of the software and some of the stuff, and sometimes you don't even get that.
okay. And then 51479, another service call, Complete Control for $1,009.90.
complete control?
Or was it Precision? Did I write it wrong?
No, it's complete. You're right. Mhm.
They do the programming of the HVAC, the module, the computer module.
I think we talked about that one in buildings and grounds. That was the one that they were not cycling on and off right. And
Yep, that's what it was.
so when we had that cold stretch,
Oh,
we
yeah,
had to reprogram them.
okay. So then just for the board's information, I did the 51480 to DNP Enterprises. So we had 4 snow plowings in February for $1,398.75. The next one I had was 51486, Jeremy Triblet.
Yep.
Post-training consult session.
That is for our AODA grant. He's got another one tomorrow with the girls, so, or I'm sorry, there was a boy, a couple of boys.
So that's paid for by a grant.
Yep.
Okay. Now I have another one, this is Precision Controls, 51500. It said service call, added 6 relays and 5 auto resets for $2,670.02.
I believe those were for the, events.
Yeah, in the vestibules.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 oldest ones, right?
Yep, the unit vents and the vestibules all needed to be fixed.
Yeah.
Some of them weren't on and one of them wouldn't go off. But if you're cold, you could stand outside the unit vent, go in my office and get warmed up. No,
You're okay.
I warned him, I told him, I said, Joe's not home yet from work.
We just got a lot to cover.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
just, so we,
That's pretty bad when your next door neighbor knows everything that's going on.
so the next one I had was 51509 to Tyranny, a 75-inch Clever Touch TV, $3,532.
That was also paid out of the AODA.
Okay. And then was the other part of it also the rover and the 2 flat panels? Was the total bill paid by the grant?
The rover,
iRover 2 and then flat panel supports. That was for $1130.
yeah,
That's what it's mounted on.
yeah, that's, yeah.
So it's all,
That's it.
that 4,000 is totally under the grant?
Yeah.
Okay. 51512 UW Platteville, early college credits, SP 21, 1375.38.
Pay for those.
Yeah, so those are
Classes.
classes that we
Kids.
approved for the,
And then if they do not get a passing grade, then they have to pay them back.
Okay. And that, I believe it was for 2 students?
2 students, yeah.
Then the next one just is, we paid half of it last month. The 51517 to access security. So the fire system for $2,240. So that I presume now is paid in full. And then there was a 2 horn strobe and labor for $1,189.92. So the total check was $3,429.92.
That's the fire, and is that all, it's a working order now?
I haven't got a phone call at 2 AM for a long time.
And it's not off, right?
It's not on.
So then when they were doing everything, did they realize we needed these 2 horn strobes?
Yeah,
Yeah,
when you
that's
go to
what was
redo it.
wrong.
Okay,
But we could never figure out what was wrong because by the time someone ran to the back room, it was already reset.
okay.
So now when we upgraded, now it tells us which ones, and they
Yeah.
found then that those horns were bad.
That was part of the problem. I know when they were doing the addition on none of that was singled out, right? It was just on the older part and then into that, it was just that wing. Whereas this other stuff, it told you
Right.
where it was.
The horn.
And then the 51520, my question was, it's a long list because there's a lot of different little items, but it was the 2-way radio, flashlight, wristbands, and vests. Are we going stipending or what?
No, we needed, so those are safety.
Okay,
So we're just, we decided that after we had done a lot of training with the kits, we didn't have enough supplies in the kits, and we needed 2 kits at the same reunification site.
okay. And then 51524, Command Central, that, again, that I think is just kind of for community and board, especially new board, to be aware that the April elections, the programming is 900.
And that's just Sauk's.
What?
That's just Sauk County.
That's just soft. Oh, okay. All right, we'll put that down there. So we're gonna have another one coming. Okay. Then the last one that I had was 515140, and again, just for the board to be aware, Richland School District for our food program for January and February was $30,530.64. So anybody have anything in between or?
No, I do not have any other. Joe, did you have anything?
I guess just continuing through into AP3, that I was kind of curious, bleacher inspection, is that pretty just typical annual inspections?
And that's why you see the other ones coming up.
Yep, exactly right. Raptor Technologies. That was. What is Raptor Technologies?
Raptor Technology is our as yet to be installed check system where people take their driver's license and they scan it and it checks it against all federal and state sexual predators. So if anybody came in and it would flag them, it's just that because we were having COVID stuff and it's, we can't get in anywhere, not having visitors basically. We're just waiting on it.
So will it be like for visitors to the school, they'll have to scan your
Yes,
ID?
their driver's license, and the nice part is it prints their prints a picture with their driver's license picture, unfortunately. Because mine's on there, I'm like, no. And then the other thing is there's a student portion of it too. So,
Sounds like a good double safety,
yeah, we paid for it with the safety grant.
And then when the students check in, it'll check them in like if they come in late, right?
Yep, so they can scan their student ID and then it'll print them a pass that they take to, it'll automatically go into Skyward and it'll print them a pass for the teachers. So there's really no contact between them and the office. One less thing for the.
Sure.
Okay, are there any other questions on the bills and balances? Moving on to 5, discussion of insurance renewal.
Okay, so now you can't really see this. So this is where we are currently with our HSA contribution. Single and family costs this much a month. No, sorry. Yeah, a year, $784,000. Difference between this.
So the first part of it shows the 668 shows the contributions. And then the next is the HSA contribution. So then the total employer cost is at $857,000.
Yep.
$839.
Yep, thank you. So the employees pay this month. So we are getting an increase. And we got a really small increase, so we're very lucky. And again, if we leave it exactly the same, we don't do anything, then it's gonna cost us another $24,000 as a district.
Julie, what does that say for percentage? Is it
2.8%. But that's
If it was
only
a
the
2 or a
difference
3.
between, it's actually a 5.5%.
3.5% increase,
Sorry.
but the district's part of it is 2.83.
Okay.
80, sorry.
Yeah.
It's really low, really low. We were like, woo, we had a little chant, did a little dance. So if we do nothing, then it's gonna cost us this much more money. It is gonna increase the employee contribution, so it's gonna go from $76 to $78 and $197 to $204
A month.
a month. Okay, and then these are options that they give us. And then way over here, see the 3 options and this is not gonna be good. So we just letting you know. So one of the options, and again, an option can be you can just stay here and it's just gonna cost the district this much more.
What does that say, 24,000?
$23. Yep, and I'm sorry, do you want me to blow it up? a
No,
little
no,
bit?
it's the yellow.
Okay, yep. All All right, so the option up here would be that instead of us paying 87.4% in our premium, we can pay 85%. Leave everything else the same. Basically, it costs the district only $4,530, but it passes that on to the staff.
Employees.
So it's from a $76 a month to a $93 a month, or $197 to a $243. So that would be an increase in what the employee pays every month. So that's an option that the district has. Option 2 is to change our contribution. So it would stay the same, 2,000 and 4,000, but we would be paying 1,900 or 3,800. Then this all stays the same, but we'd save money here because the HSA contribution would go down. We don't have to pay so much. But again, that cost is then picked up by the employee. Individually, I'd have to pay it, Cheryl would have to, we'd all have to pay it. Okay? And then the individual, every month it would be the same. So again, that's just an option. That one would cost us only $15,000. Option 3 is changing the HSA to 1,800 and 3,600. Again, everything being the same. It would mean that the district pays less. The district would only pay $6,823, and then the payments for individuals would be the same. Those are our choices.
And what are you recommending?
We were so excited to get that percentage.
Our plan operates like less than 50%. That's why we're getting this kind of rate sort of thing.
Right.
And when we look at going with like a cooperative, a CISA, some of those school districts, their plans are running high, the utilization, so therefore it would cost us more money to go in because we're gonna be lumped with that sick group, so to say.
So none of these plans saves the employees any money. This one would cost, well, they all three would cost the employees money because we would be paying less on their deductible or a less percentage. For a raise of $25,000 for the whole year, I think it would be worth it personally to stay where we're at.
I agree.
I feel that way just with the last year that we've had, that to offer, what we have offered, the school takes the increase, unfortunately, but for the employees, that's still a very good rate.
Yeah. Excellent. Every time I tell anybody about our insurance, we have the best. It's a bomb.
So just any more discussion on the
Do you have any
insurance?
other questions on that?
I think we're good.
Okay, we'll move on to 6, discussion of support staff realignment of hourly pay.
And this doesn't have to be done today, just so you know. Let's see, I'm over here. All right, so this is what the people make currently with a 1.52 and 3% raise. I'd like to make these people up here. And again, one person does receive a stipend, and a stipend would go down. And then from now on, all full-time employees would start at $12 an hour. And adding a stipend to the pairs for subbing, this is on the paper all the way, excuse me. There it is, sorry about that. And again, we don't have to decide this today, so I'm gonna run through it really quickly because we got many things to do. And again, same thing, Frank and Leary here is a 1.523. So it would change from here to here, and I'm pretty sure she added the 2%, just so you know. We do have pairs that are subbing for teachers right now because anybody that can go in a room, we want to honor that work. I'd like to give them a $2 stipend. That means that it would cost the district $112 a day average versus $115 it would cost a teacher. It's still a very small savings, but it also honors the work of the para. So, and we can do that, we just give them a different rate of pay for the days they're subbing. I don't have anything on how much that would cost overall. And then just so you know, these are the new people. So these people are part-time, and at this point, I'm not advocating for a raise for them. Now, mind you, you can change that if you'd like. But except for these, well, this person's gone now, but these three people started at the beginning of the school year, and these people started after that. So, and Monica has a special thing for subbing. So,
So on the other ones, can you get us what the impact that would be for the overall, like the percentages for another meeting?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That way we can look at, compare that.
Are there any other questions on that?
I guess, maybe they have, if we're making change, sorry, I have thought, but I'm trying to put it out there. The reason for this is simply just raising the baseline of pay.
Yeah,
It's
well, we
not-
usually give everybody a raise. If we have money, we should give everybody a raise.
Doesn't performance-based necessarily, it's just raising the floor.
So that's kind of what those three $12 ones would do.
Mhm.
And part of that was based on, we talked, I think it was last month or maybe the month before. We had somebody working, and she made more money cleaning.
Than she did during the school year.
Sure.
And I'm
Well,
like,
yeah.
that just doesn't sit right in my
With the
mind.
summer crew, that was.
They don't get the
traditionally-
benefits.
They don't get
They
the
don't get the
benefits.
benefits.
That's a
Sure.
huge.
So that's a huge.
That's a huge.
Yeah.
add.
Yeah.
Summer crew was always more traditionally, kids or whatever. In the last few years, it hasn't been. They've hired people that were working here during that. That's why that's.
So then with that, excuse me,
You're okay.
with that $12 an hour, if that would be our new starting rate, then with the percentage that we're gonna give, that would get added on?
We could, or you could not give them the percentage and then they would get a raise to $12 and everybody else would get a
Okay.
percentage. That's your call. I don't think. One of them would be getting 50-cent raise, two of them would get, 49-cent raise. It's a pretty good raise. That's way over
3%.
Yeah.
And if it were performance-based, I would advocate for larger raises. Our pairs work really hard and will do anything asked at any time.
Okay. Any other on the support staff? So then number 7, discussion of contracts for administrative personnel.
I just wanted to bring up that Cher and I had asked for vacation payout and that was on the back of your sheet last time and we kind of forgot about it. So
Yeah.
we can
Well, we were
discuss
just-
more.
Yeah, we'll kind of discuss more on that and closed and we want to get that addressed. First.
All right, and then, so what I did is, I asked Cheryl to create this sheet. And I shared some of this in buildings and grounds, but I asked Cheryl to make even more, okay? So what she did on this sheet was so we lost 2 teachers. They got different jobs. So we took their wages, WRS, Social Security, electric, okay? 1, 2. And then we had a full-time transportation director, but we didn't hire that person, so there was a savings there. So in those 3 positions, a non-full-time transportation director and the loss of 2 full-time teachers, subbing costs way less because there's no insurance, all that stuff. That's how much money we saved. About, because the year's not over yet, but just with, goggles on, whatever,
And
television.
some of those subs that we hired can be paid out of COVID money because, we added people to rooms and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so that has been paid out of the first round of COVID.
Yes, some of it came out of the first.
But we have used part of that director of transportation.
When
We've
we,
used that for,
yep, and I can tell you when we get to the parking lot
But
ones,
that-
they've changed a little bit, but yeah, 50,000 of that.
No, this is just wages.
no, but I mean, but we have a lead bus driver or,
Yeah, so we
yes.
have some hourly.
so we
wages that
have some wages that were increased that was under that umbrella. So it isn't the full 44,000.
So our proposal, and again, we'll get to, when we get to it, I'm just trying to give you guys the big view. The playground equipment costs this. And if we used it there, we'd have this much left in this pocket of money. Just so you know. And we can use it where it is. Then, in our budgets, in our budget process, Cher had budgeted $50,000 for buildings and grounds. We did save money on some of this stuff. So we potentially have, and it says possible, left over this much money of stuff that we've already budgeted. And again, that's the same thing with the teacher salaries and stuff. We already budgeted for them. And we would like to use, under that pocket of money, we have $50,000, $60,000 in asphalt and striping, the basketball wenches, or girls at the, anyway, bleachers and the air cleaning process. That total, I'm sorry, taking that minus the totals, that gives us this much left in that money.
And if we don't do the air cleaning process, it's the 34. I just did that because I didn't know where we were at with that.
Then we have 3 grants. And we typically get theirs, and we just haven't really spent them a lot because we've been too busy trying to do COVID stuff. So this year, in 3 years, you get $10,000 a year. We haven't spent it, they let us carry it over. We got $30,000 here, we spent all of that, all of it, pretty much, on technology. Well, it's allocated, I'm sorry, I haven't spent it
It's
yet.
allocate, I was gonna say.
It has to go towards technology.
Yes. REAP money, again, it must be obligated or spent by, we have this much money. And then there's another REAP grant that we have this much money. So that's that much money, and we were thinking in this, we would put the interactive TVs and everything that goes with them. And then
There's more, the servers.
there's 3 servers that again, we talked about, and some of them are on the agenda now. So that total was this, and we would still have about 9,000 left in those 3 grants. And then just so you know, this is literally what it looks like. She took a screenshot, and I know you can't read it. This is our coding in, this is in the WISE grant system. So we have to like general ed, non-capital preparedness in response to COVID-19. We have to code it 253 at 411 and $15,000.
And then there's an activity, there's some other stuff. It is very cumbersome to do these grants anymore. It's really.
Yeah,
something.
very cumbersome. And so Sharon and Adam and I sat down to get all of this done. Gears is the governor one, and
That's our allotment
our
there.
allotment was 62,000, and this is what we allotted. And again, we tried to keep it so it was easy for us to claim instead of having a little here and a little here and a little here. So this is basically addressing long-term school closure, program aids, teachers aids for $36,000. And this is prepared in a response, and this is $25,000.
So that was the first one, and that money is
Basically, yeah, that's paras, hiring extra paras and extra substitute teachers. That's what this is. $62,000 worth.
Do you have any idea of what we actually net saved? You know, at the top, when you talked about the 3 teacher salaries or staff salaries that were saved, but certainly we would have had costs offset because we would have had to staff that. Like, as you're carrying it down, you know, it's not accounting for those expenses. I know you mentioned some COVID money, but you know, whether it be some, you know, just, I'm thinking there's got to be some expenses though.
Right.
That's what this 60,000 went to cover.
Right.
That's all of it for the 3?
We're not quite sure. We have,
Okay.
we figured, no, you did have that figured out, didn't you? How much? Because we have 2 long-term subs. Jay Schmidt.
Like insurance and stuff for them.
Oh,
So it really cuts down on
Mhm.
their costs.
Yeah.
Benefits.
Okay.
Did you get your question answered?
I think so. I mean,
So when we did the additional time for the person that's doing the bus stuff,
That's not calculated in there.
that's not calculated in there. That
No.
additional is not.
But
And
it's not
did that
much
person
longer.
get insurance then?
No.
Okay.
We have them under the 30 hours.
Okay.
And then, so this is ESER 2, and we haven't touched this money yet, but we have $167,000 in there. So, sorry, up here, wrong mouse. So this is what they tell you, that we're encouraging to spend this money to take comprehensive action to mitigate learning loss, restore and maintain high-quality learning environments, and to safely reopen elementary and secondary schools. Especially consider the needs of its most vulnerable students. So on every single one of these, we had to say, we had to make sure that we spent money and we knew that we were gonna make sure all of the special ed kids, kids of color, non-English speaking kids, we made sure that that was all in consideration. So that's equity is the new thing. So this one we don't have any plans for quite yet, but we do have some options.
Well, no. So those options are at the end of the year,
Thank you.
after we do whatever is decided to do. These are the options if we have money left over.
And this is from the top 2 buckets of money, not all the grant money.
No, it's
Okay.
just from budget savings. So we can put it in capital improvements, which is what we started funding for Fund 46 2 years ago, and there's a 5-year limit on, you have to leave it in there, you can't touch it for 5 years. And we put $5,000 in it just to start the fund. Needless to say, it is not gaining any interest because it doesn't hit the threshold for investments. But we could put money in there. We'd have 3 more years that we could sit on it, and then we could do some long-range planning on whatever we decide, and hopefully to add to it. So that's option 1. Option 2 is designate it for use in the fund balance for a specific project. So if we wanted to do, if we had another 50,000 left over, if we wanted to designate it in our fund balance for the other part of the asphalt that we're not doing, we can do that as well. But those dollars do not count towards expenditures in the current fiscal year, where the first option does. Anytime we dump money into that Fund 46, they allow us to use them as expenses.
This,
That's what I
This year, but then you can't touch them for 5
But you
years.
can't touch them.
well, we got 10 years left.
So if we have money now, does it have to sit there for another 5 years, or can
No,
that come
no.
out when we started that first
It's
5,000?
5 years from the inception of the fund, yep. And I mean, we could put 50 in it that last year and pull it all out.
Sure.
But it's counted as a spent money then.
Yeah.
So we can get aided on
You
it
get aided on it, where the
Yes.
other you don't.
Yeah, if you don't spend it.
versus putting it in fund balance. There's always a good idea to put money in a fund balance, but this means it's spent and we're saving money for a bigger project.
It may be more of a question for building and grounds, but I mean, I just think of, is there any major projects, maintenance? Because you think of when Richland Center's going through, trying to replace their own roof
Well,
on the
we
new school.
replaced our roofs,
Yeah.
10 years ago?
Yeah,
So I
so
mean,
when we did the upper 90 project, they went through and looked at everything, the roads and everything, just,
Sure.
that was part of the deal there. And we were in really good shape there. That's why we then, geared towards these other projects. So right now, as buildings, we're in very, very good shape. Of course, we got a lot of parts and pieces and things like that. You're always gonna have some things, but we're sitting very good from that standpoint. That's why, we've talked about some of these other projects, and a bunch of the stuff we talk about tonight's not gonna be all the projects we address this year, but we kind of wanted to start we prioritized them. And then we said, okay, in May, then we'll come back and look at what's left, and then, same thing, prioritize what's left and go from there. But, there can always be a big thing happen, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, boilers and all that other stuff, right now, there's no big need.
Has there been any further discussion about the shop,
The what?
the shop?
No.
And
egg room.
filtration or,
Not this time.
Not this time, but that would be potentially one.
well, that's
Yeah.
what, like Joe was mentioning, a big, or the old gym, we
Right.
talked about that.
Well, yeah, we've talked about that's a little bit, that's a whole different project that we're.
Yeah. All right, so then all of this is basically us gathering information So, and buildings and grounds have looked at most of this. Is it okay that I just keep going, Linda? I'm sorry.
Sure, you're on 9 now.
All right, so we did get a bid from Gasser. It's 39,600. Frank added it up for us for the parking lot. That is to redo a little bit of this parking lot, do the new end of the parking lot and redo and add to and widen the whole bus.
So basically that's this parking lot all the way around to the concession stand and where it comes out. Now that, we had approved that project already
Correct.
at around 50, it went up by 14,000 because when he came back and looked at it, that part of the old parking lot that would butt up against that new parking lot is not in very good shape. And they're afraid if we leave it with the way the water will run, it will undermine the new parking lot and pavement and so the base on that is not good enough, that they were quite concerned about ruining our new blacktop that we laid down. So they would cut out part of the old parking lot, take it out, and instead of just, recoating it, they'd replace part of that.
So the 39, what we had approved before was
50.
Okay.
Because we added the, this is the redoing. It's a change order. Removing the old stuff and fine grading the existing gravel. So there's a 15,000 upcharge for that basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it comes to 54,700?
Yeah.
And with the striping, it's $59,577.
And we were right around, I think 44 something, just under the 50,000, because we had budgeted 50,000 for maintenance. That's why we brought it back, because of the new pavement in that parking lot is an added 13,900 for what they have to cut out.
Okay.
And the striping isn't on the same bid, it's a different company. So, but I didn't want you need to realize that there's another 5,000 to stripe it, but everything's gonna be painted. Any other questions on that?
And our recommendation for buildings and grounds would be to do that and get that done. We had a bid for redoing the parking lot, starting from the old school and all the way up clear to the, where it goes out here by this driveway that goes out here where the dumpster and that is. To redo that one and restripe that one is 99 or 96,000. And we said, let's get this one done.
Well, we need to keep that
Mhm.
because if it doesn't
This
get,
this one has some
it's
spots
gonna
that
erode.
are quite
Yeah.
bad too,
Mhm.
but that was one where well, let's maybe,
Yeah.
See when the dust settles. Yeah.
It could be scooped up in a big project 3 years from now. So Mike's got the picture here of the playground.
I have more little copies.
All in, the price of the playground equipment is $78,757. Shipping, installation. It does not include resurfacing the ground or bark.
Or the bark.
Mhm. And we talked about this in buildings and grounds, and we've looked over all the elements of the new playground, and there was nothing there that was concerning as far as anything we felt was dangerous or anything, and that's kind of one we picked. I had Mr. Monty check in just for, so we know, if we would do rubber, because rubber, would be more expensive, but it would last longer, and it was 5 times.
Yeah.
It would be like $20,000. And he said some people like it, some people hate it. And I know anything I ever used it on, it leaves a black residue and it gets real hot.
Yeah.
So I think wood chips are.
We said, well, at least we know now.
We had done rubber probably 15 years ago when Robin Nimke was on our PTSO, and they took it out because it, left a residue and it just was.
I know we'd had another group come, Randy was telling us that they would like to do a fundraiser for something for the playground, and I thought, well, if we do this, maybe that was a thing that we did it all at once, but now we know.
But we will still fundraise, Steve, I promise you.
So this is both
It's one picture. It's just different angles.
Oh, okay.
And then
Oh,
we
yeah,
walked-
now
we
I
walked
see it.
up
Okay,
to-
so it's
and
basically
Mr. Monty
all
has
of
it,
this.
Mr. Monty has it staked out up there.
Oh, yeah. picture.
And it, we walked up and looked at it and everything looks like it'll fit in there nicely with the existing playground. And a few of the older things we could remove and it
Yep.
looks like it'll work really well.
All right.
So our recommendation for buildings and grounds would be to proceed with it.
These are the wenches.
We've talked about this for a couple of years with the winches that when different people crank them up and you crank them up manually with a drill, they often get them too high and they've bent some things and actually if we don't do this, we've got to at least change the cables because there's several cables that are frayed and in bad shape. So with some of the money we have left over, I would recommend that we do this because the new ones will be on a button. And when you hit the button, it just goes up and automatically
Automatically
stops
stops.
where they are. So,
Almost anybody can push a button.
yeah, at this point, the pictures that Frank has shown us, they're a potential safety hazard.
All right, so discussion on kitchen refrigeration, freezer costs and process. So you want to take this one over?
So Frank and I have met with Kesnick's and Cold Pack was the freezer company. We met with Madigan Refrigeration out of,
Lodi.
thank you. I knew it was like not Madison, but it's close. And then we have a third company coming. We did look at the blueprints. We had Shelley Stanley come and verify that Frank and I were thinking right. There is room out in the courtyard to go straight back from where the freezer is. And we can do a 15-foot, which would double our space that we have currently. We have a real problem now. The other day when we went in there to show when Kesnick's were here, we had stuff stacked in the aisleway. I don't know if Joe, you've probably never been in the freezer, but
I have.
it's a no-no to put food
On the floor.
on the floor.
Sure.
So we get written up all the time from the state. And right now that just had Cisco delivery and we had stuff sitting up on crates, and that puts the plastic crates in there. So then they're not quite as angry about it, but when commodities come in, most of it gets shipped to Richland Center's freezer. So
Well, that's what I was gonna ask with this food service program. How much food are we actually storing versus what they're bringing over?
That's a really good question.
yes, that's been one of my concerns.
I mean,
As far
You
as
know
I
she
can-
over orders.
Well, she's ordering for a big school and then when she goes to order for us, she orders too much.
And then we don't have room to store it, so they hang on to it. Does it come back? We don't know.
So like, she wanted to order fresh strawberries. And Annette said, you can't do those in sack lunches going out for virtual because they'll just mush. So she ordered bananas and we had literally the whole countertop on, when you went in the kitchen, the whole countertop was like 7 cases of bananas. And that was probably enough for 2 full meals or 3 full meals, it's like,
so how do we go about addressing some of this and the expense involved?
well, one of the things that we've talked about is possibly taking our program back.
Well, that's,
And that's not an option with our current,
contract.
with our freezer space.
Oh, correct,
We
correct.
couldn't,
No, but that's what I'm leading
Yeah.
to. So is it worth doing this?
Well, and
If
we're having,
this-
our freezer and our refrigerator is older than this building is, because it came up from, some of it came up from down below, I believe. So we have had numerous compressor issues and stuff like that anyway. The concept or the thought process is then so you go in through the walk-in cooler. What's now existing as the freezer will become more cooler space, and then the door will go out back to the other.
So it'll go into the courtyard.
So we do have some money left over and
We do, DPI has to approve anything that we buy out of those funds because it's federally subsidized program. But freezers is one of the things that's listed on their thing, so.
But there's no dollars attached to this.
Because right now we're.
You're in the bid process?
60,000.
mhm.
We have a little range of 30 to 60,000.
Because we're gonna not only have to buy the freezer, we're gonna have to have a general contractor put a hole in, a door in, the slab, the freezer.
So that's where we just wanted to start exploring, looking at what is the cost
What's the
gonna be,
options? And for years, I was told we couldn't even do that because of the grease traps out there, but the way all the drains and everything that drains out of the kitchen, we miss it totally.
So this is one where we have like potentially like 15 to 20,000 and that.
Fund balance.
But this could be one that you might be able to push this off and put money into it for a project for a year or two or something like this, because by the time you wouldn't be looking at doing anything this summer yet because it's, it's not time, but it's one that, as we get planning towards the future, those units are old enough that if you start, changing compressors and stuff in them, you do that and then you still have your old units with no, not enough space. So that's kind of where we wanted to start because, I could tell you I could get you a pretty close idea on what the units are gonna cost, but construction and all that kind of stuff,
I
so.
think Frank and I, when we were talking, I think the ballpark figure was around 50,000
Yeah.
for the general contractor plus the freezer.
Yeah, and that's what, when we had buildings and grounds, that's kind of what we started putting together, and so.
Well, and I just think, we need to look at the whole program because we're spending a lot of money for stuff that we don't get or we don't use.
Yeah.
And I know that having our own program would probably cost a little bit more, but it'd be in-house, we'd have the control.
And that's where doing this, if we really seriously consider that down the road, then the suggestions from buildings and grounds would be to start, put money aside for this so that way, because this would have to be a project that would have to be started, early in the summer, to get done. So you'd want to have your ducks in a row whenever you're going to do it, so.
And one of the other things we do have, remember we bought a few years ago, a standalone freezer because we weren't handling everything and that doesn't even handle it. And we can turn around and resell that because it's less than 10 years old. And that would give them a lot more dry goods storage, which if you walk in that room,
Yeah, it's to the ceiling.
it's wall to wall stuff and.
Okay, we gotta go.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Okay, discussion on ordering interactive TVs and computers.
So there, you'll see, this is $53,526. Again, this was a quote we got, at $8,280, which is down here. For every TV, you need a new computer. So when you put them together, it becomes the $61,000.
And this would replace then all our
Smart board.
smart boards,
Smart boards, yep.
obsolete. And that would probably come out of COVID or REAP money.
I think we've got it out of Title IV.
Yeah, I think that was one of
And the
those
other
things.
thing is right now, we don't know, I've applied for the REAP.
Sure.
For 21, 22, but they haven't awarded it.
And
So
if we
that's
don't
gonna be
spend
another
that,
25,000.
that could be, that could go to another year, that wouldn't happen.
Yep. And then we have, again, it's the same quote, so it's, these are, I'm sorry, this is out of order. Here's the paper cut, so $2,400 for one of the servers that we need so far. That's not the last one, what is this one? Okay, so I'm all on the same one.
Yeah,
Desktops.
didn't we do the desktops and laptop, that comes to like 10,000, didn't we approve that last time?
Yes.
I thought we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Oh, did
So
we?
those are
Okay,
done,
well,
yeah. The paper cut one was not, so it'd have to be the paper cut and the monitor and the interactive TVs would be on this one. And that buildings and grounds we recommend recommendation would be doing that.
All right. Then we have the upper, okay, so this is the air cleaning process, and we will have a whole presentation on this. Just letting you know that the upper 90 has a cost of $25,000. If we want to include community gym, it would be another 55, excuse me. And the precision control, and again, you're gonna get a lot more of this in the board meeting, so.
Okay.
They're both presenting.
They're presenting, so this one is,
Basically, both of them are just, would clean the air and, so,
they're
you know,
two
not
totally
only for
different
COVID, but
processes.
for, flu years, anything, basically, it's just gonna, clean and filter the air a lot better with, positive, negative charge ions. Both of them are work off kind of the same concept. And they would just, you'd have a lot better air filtration system in the schools.
Then bleachers, the bleachers that are in the, that we always pick up and move are just bending and they fall on each other. So Frank got us even a deal off of this. It's gonna be even less expensive than this, but $20,000 for 5 bleachers, it's gonna be slightly under 20,000 because he asked him, hey, can you cut me a deal if I order them on Tuesday?
And these are for where?
Football field.
So right now, we take some from the football field and move them back and forth, and every time we're doing that, they're not meant to do that, and they're breaking. And
Okay.
So we would leave them in place, and the football ones then would just slide back out of the way, and then during football season, they would come up, and the ones that we were taking up to the softball diamond would stay
Stay.
on the softball diamond. Because if we keep moving them, we're gonna have to replace them
Well, the
anyways.
ones, yeah, they're gonna have to do a bunch of welding this
Yeah.
summer.
Yeah.
Fix them before fall.
But then we won't have to keep moving them so
Yeah.
fast.
So our recommendation is to buy those.
Okay, then it's number 19, discussion of teacher contracts.
So you've seen all the teacher, we showed you the list of who's getting paid what. Now we just have individual contracts. You guys need to approve that we're hiring all the people back at those rates of pay, which you've already seen.
Sure.
So we'll have to everybody sign the contracts today.
Any discussion on that? We kind of, I thought we were all okay on that.
Yeah.
Last time.
Okay?
Discussion of summer school.
So I advertised for both certified teaching staff and assistants, and I did receive 2 so far. So
Brooke had another phone call this afternoon.
running summer school will be dependent on whether or not we have enough staff.
And we had discussed that in curriculum as well.
Yep, so try to get enough staff before the end of April. Because it'll take a while based on who applies to get something up and running.
So Kathleen, have we tapped into a couple of these young men who are pretty much going to be done with their teaching for the summer? I know that they work, I think, up at the Orchard.
I haven't personally, Linda. It was advertised in the Observer, it's on Facebook.
I can, you want me to, I can text them.
I mean, I don't know who these young people are necessarily, so.
I can text them.
You know who I'm talking
Yep.
about. Okay. I mean, I wouldn't want to steal them away from you, but I think it's kind of important
That's
that
just
we
a couple
have,
days.
Yeah.
that we have summer school.
4 days 1 week, 4 days the next week.
If it
and we can
rains,
serve
you can have them if it's. The kids
Well,
will come up there and learn.
Outdoor learning at the
I think they'd be very good. That's what I mean,
Yeah, one of them I know can, it's got a different job.
okay.
And we can have breakfast and lunch at the same price we pay now. Just got that email today.
But it's on top of the contract.
On top of the contract, of course it is.
You saved some of those bananas.
We'll freeze them.
Okay, discussion of school nurse. I don't do well with waste.
So I guess the biggest thing in the time aspect is a medical advisor needs to be determined, and that comes from the district. My understanding is we don't have one currently. I think the last one we had was Dr. Richardson, and that was when public health was responsible for the school nursing duties. So there is a little bit of a time issue on it because we get stock EpiPens through a grant. And in order to continue with that process, we have to have a medical advisor sign off on the prescription. And our stock EpiPens expire at the end of this month. So that's something that we need to address first and foremost, is to get that, because there are some students that have the allergies and they don't carry their own EpiPens. So they rely on our supply.
So how do we go about that?
How about with our contract with Richland Hospital?
We don't have a current contract, Linda. That's the problem. 2019 is when it expired.
But I mean, we have it for these other services.
Well, we could add it to like,
That's what I'm wondering,
maybe
if-
that's what we need to do.
to contact them and see what their fee would be to have.
So that's an immediate need,
Mhm.
but it's long-term. I really want to,
Well, but I mean, it makes sense to stick it in that contract because anything we get from them, then they can bill us on the quarterly or they bill us monthly or stuff like that. So
We
I never thought
We
about.
could see
putting
what they would do in the immediate to fill this need,
Yeah.
and then that potentially we could contract for
Yep.
add it for the whole year.
My
I think it would be good if the district had that same thing for employee physicals.
Yeah,
And for if there's a workers' comp. Because they're looking out for the district and not, you know what I mean, not the employee, because sometimes they can milk it for quite a while until the insurance company says, we want our physician
Yeah.
to look at them, and evaluate them.
Okay,
Yeah,
back to the
'cause-
nurse. So sorry, don't mean to rush, but.
yeah, so that's just the first thing, but then, working as the school nurse with the 8 hours a month, which we knew there would be some flexibility, like more hours at the beginning, less, through the winter. But after doing, this school year, it needs to be more hours and more in-person time, because, I don't have set days here, I work full-time, obviously, so we knew that going into this, but I think the district really needs to consider hiring a full-time school nurse, just because there's a lot of safety concerns for the students right now that I don't think are being addressed. So just a lot of things to think about, and, I feel like a little bit uneasy that my license is currently at risk proceeding, so I just have some hesitancy and some concerns. And I know the Richland County Public Health that was part of the reason why they dissolved their contract, was they felt there were concerns as well. So I think it's just something that the district really needs to think about, hiring a full-time school nurse.
Can you tell us more? I mean, I know we have very little time, but what is the risk that you see, or what are the concerns?
So there's concerns with the students that have medical needs, whether they're diabetic or they are taking daily medications. There needs to be like an emergency action plan or an individual health plan for each student that has these needs, and there's not. And then same with like daily medication administration. There's forms that have to be signed by the parent and the physician, and some of those aren't even up to date. So legally, we probably shouldn't be, the office staff probably shouldn't be giving these medications if the forms aren't signed and up to date. And then just thinking about the staff training, you're diving into like the first aid and the CPR. I touched on the EpiPen training for staff this school year, but there's just a lot that I feel like is not being fully addressed.
What do you think a reasonable, like, weekly hour, what do you think it would take?
So honestly, I'm not sure. I think initially for probably at least a school year, if not two, I think you need to plan on a full time, just to get everything up to date, because there's a lot of things that like Barb and Mary Jo are doing, and with Barb or Mary Jo retiring, I think there's gonna be a lot of adjustments with that day to day, and then like we've just talked, there's just a lot that needs to be brought up to date, and then like utilizing Skyward. I think it's gonna be a big learning curve for everyone, because I don't even know what it deals with. So, I've talked with Brittany Niemeyer, who is Weston's school nurse for this year. I talked with her quite a bit because it's a new program for them, or a new role for them, but they're a similar sized district, and she sees 15 plus kids a day in her office.
And is she's full-time too, isn't she? Yeah. So we could get some information from
So the-
them as far as,
Districts this size would have 2,000 hours worth of work for I'm not trying,
That's the way Brittany has said that her time is 100% accounted for. She works on their virtual days as well.
Is she there during the summer?
She is not.
Okay.
She starts, yeah, so she said that she has the summer off is the way her contract is written, but she starts a little bit before the school year, like at least 2, sometimes 4 weeks. Because there's a lot of prep at the beginning of the school year that needs to happen, so I think there's a lot of.
Why don't we talk to Weston and see what they did to start their program, and maybe if they'll share their contract on what they are. for
Yeah,
things.
and they use COVID money and they won't share. I already asked, so.
I did call around the other districts though. So Riverdale has a full-time, Weston has Brittany, Richland has a full-time and added another full-time this year. Seneca has 2 retired nurses that do at least 1 day and more per week. Lafarge has a school nurse that works 7:30 to 1:30 every day. Kickapoo has a full-time nurse.
See if we can talk to maybe some of those that might be willing to share with us, and that'll get us a good starting point.
Yeah.
well, I don't understand what's the big deal.
top secret.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Come on, yeah.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
Discussion and possible action on selling a bus.
We have an extra one that's in bad shape, kind of like the old one. We don't need it.
Okay,
And right now, yeah, it's gonna cost us way over $3,000 to fix it.
We don't need it.
we got enough bus bills.
Yeah.
So discussion on other financial matters. I don't believe there are any, correct? Okay.
No other matters.
So set next meeting date is starting at 6:30, a half an hour meeting, gonna work?
No,
No, 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock.
just being realistic.
You're
All right, that's
well, I
fine.
see all these things, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.